Welcome to Sturup Raceway for what is the third round of the 2026 Aquila Formula 1000 Championship. If you're joining us on the main broadcast, this is the first race of the weekend. I will be with you for some of them. Aquila is included in that one. Here we see the grid lining up for a very hot race. We're expecting, it's very hot outside. It's going to be the hottest race of the season probably. Forecast right now 32 degrees Celsius. It's been upwards of 35 earlier today in qualifying. It's also in Sweden, so the humidity is way higher than what we would have on a summer vacation down in Egypt or Italy, so it might be even worse in that case. So it's been very tough for the drivers, especially with the full racing gear gone. We've seen a lot of AC conditioning, a lot of water, wet towels and changing in between the races, and a lot of trying to cool the engines as much as possible. Which leads me on to the grid, of which we have Evan Hofknai in P1, and in second place we won't have Andreas Skattebo starting because he had a very scary experience with qualifying. He felt he got very warm and almost too dizzy. When he came in, he immediately laid down beside the car, so he felt as if, and also very strongly advised to not partake in race 1, unfortunately. So grid box number 2 will be empty for this first race of the weekend, but hopefully he said it will be a bit cooler tomorrow and they will be able to partake in a recovery drive style race in race 2 and 3 tomorrow. As we see now, Evan Hofknai, it's going to be in P3, it's going to be Enzo Collin starting after a great qualifying from him. Career best, if I'm not mistaken, in qualifying for him after his maiden podium back in Midsverigebanan. In P4 we have Mason Bjerring, the Danish guy, made a really good impression here in qualifying. Also a career best for him. Albin Gustafsson, championship leader, had a bit of a, not a struggle I wouldn't say, but he was... he's 6/10 adrift from pole position man Evan Hofknai and his championship rival, so not the most plain of sailing here at Sturup for him. I think it's a new track for him, and he didn't do a lot of practice yesterday and Friday, so I understand the lack of pace. Then we have Kevin Strandberg, who has done one race with us before. I think it was last year or earlier this last year, yeah. Maybe even one this year, I can't really remember, but he's very inexperienced in Aquila circumstances. I remember he did Shinikulle last year in third gear only because he couldn't shift, and was still pretty quick, so very promising guy there, and hope to see him do well here in this race. We have Pete Norbeck in P7 with a 1:09.781. Did an improvement on the last lap to put him up into P7, was P8 before, so he just beat Max Schweinerlund in P8 with only a few hundreds, even a few tenths even in qualifying. And then we go back to P9, Carl Wilhelm Björnemalm, who was rookie number 2 back in Midsverigebanan. A great improvement from him throughout this season, and beside him Agnes Varland, who has been improving rapidly and is quite prone to improve when she gets a chance to be in the car. She's had some issues, technical difficulties both last year and this year, so she hasn't really been able to prove herself, but good work from her now. And then we have behind her Selina Hessman in P11, Johan Wahland P12, only senior this race, and then we have Embla Larsson P13 and Julius Julin rounding out the grid in P14. So 13 cars taking the start here as the 5-second board goes out. I can't unfortunately see the lights as I'm sitting in a caravan watching, but I'll hopefully be with you when we start here soon. Cars are revving up, we're ready to go racing here for race number 1. It's lights out and away we go. It's a good start from Evan Hofknai. Behind him, Enzo Collin gets past Mason Bjerring into turn 1. It's Pete Norbeck with a side-by-side with Kevin Strandberg in turn 1. Exiting now turn 1. It's Evan, Enzo behind that, and then Mason. Then Albin Gustafsson made a good start, and then it's Kevin Strandberg and Pete Norbeck fighting. And then we see overtaking maneuver. Max Schweinerlund gets passed by what is Carl Wilhelm Björnemalm, I believe. Into turn 3 now we go. Very tricky corner to get right, but it seems like most have so far. We get down into turn 5 and 6. 4 and 5, sorry, into the tight left-hander, which goes on forever into the middle straight of the lap. It's quite packed still on the field, and so Evan not being able to pull away from Enzo behind. And then we have Mason Bjerring, the Danish guy, seeing a lunge there from Albin Gustafsson just out of view when he tried to overtake there side by side Mason Bjerring and Albin Gustafsson. Albin Gustafsson gets past into turn 6. And then we're going to turn 7. Slowest corner on the calendar from what I know. And then we see into final corner now. We're going to round out this first lap of racing. Start finish race. It's Evan from Enzo, from Albin, from Mason Bjerring. And then we have Kevin Strandberg, then Pete Norberg. Kevin Strandberg going a bit wide there in turn 1. You see Carl-William Björnemalm is shaping up for a move on Pete Norberg, but also Kevin Strandberg being hunted down by Pete Norberg in P5. Into turn 3 now we go, flat out turn 2, and then into turn 3, which is a legitimate overtaking opportunity if you're brave enough. But it's quite a bold one if you do. So we see the standings pop up. Albin Gustafsson being the fastest on the first lap, as he made some positions up. Into turn 4 and 5 again. Very tricky with a bump on the inside of turn 4, the right-hander before the left. You have to avoid it to keep the car intact, but also keep the car settled into the braking stop, which is quite difficult on you're turning, hitting a bump, and braking at the same time. As we see the Frog Lake, and then we have Evan leading in us into the slowest corner once again. I think we're doing about 44 kilometers an hour, so even slower than F1 is doing in the Lowe's hairpin in the Monaco. So just to give you some perspective, very tricky corner. Up on the front straight again, Enzo hanging on to Evan Hofknai here on the first taps. He is very close though, and as we mentioned earlier, it's very hot, and being that close, he's gonna remove some cooling air from the ducts and make his engine a bit hotter, which could punish him towards the end of the race. But Enzo looking hungry after his maiden podium back in Midsidebanan. Into turn 3 now we go. Still settled. Evan was very quick in qualifying. He did a pretty unorthodox round and only did a few laps in qualifying to keep the engine cool. And then when he was done, he just stayed in a box and just waited out the rest of the session. So he was quite quick in qualifying, but obviously here Enzo and Albin Gustafsson behind has found something to be able to make up that pace difference. And we see Albin Gustafsson going down the inside of Enzo Collini at turn 6. And is passed. So now Albin Gustafsson, championship leader. Before qualifying, I think he dropped down into second behind Evan, but now the championship, top 2 in the championship, Albin Gustafsson and Enzo, Evan Hofknai, sorry, in P1 and P2. Oh, as we see Evan getting a bit of slide into the final corner, that's not good. These tires don't like that on this particular circuit, and definitely not in these temperatures. But it's definitely looking like Albin is a bit quicker at this stage. Mason Bjerring though setting the fastest lap in last lap, and was actually almost as fast as Evan was in qualifying, so good pace from him. He's looking down the outside of Enzo Collini into the flat out left-hander turn 2. So now come over the crest into turn 3, left-hander banked. It's Evan from Albin, from Enzo, from Mason Bjerring, then it's Kevin Strandberg, Pete Norberg. Agnes Valand has made a good race up, a few positions this race up into P7, then Carl-William Björnemalm, Max Lund, Johan Valand, Stina Hessman, Julius Julin, and then Embla Larsson rounding out their cars that running at this stage. As we now look at Albin Gustafsson is probably shaping up for a move here pretty soon. And I see now that Enzo is dropping back pace-wise. I'm wondering if that close running to the rear of Evan Hofknai, the early stages of this race, might have punished him temperature-wise on the engine. Can only speculate, but it certainly looks like he's dropped a bit of pace into the final corner. Evan Hofknai tighter this lap around, not sliding. Albin Gustafsson hunting him down, however, as we now enter into the 4th lap with Evan Hofknai leading the way with Develop Motorsports, with privateer Albin Gustafsson behind him. So now enter the back straight of what is the longest full throttle section of this very twisty circuit down in the south of Sweden, near the airport of Malmö. As Mason Bjerring makes a move down the inside of Enzo Collini into turn 3. Will he make that stick? Yes, he does. Enzo Collini goes away by wide. He's a bit caught by surprise, I think, into turn 3. It's a very unorthodox position to overtake, as we spoke about earlier. Having to really be bold and ballsy into there, but clean move. And Enzo drops down into P4 and Mason up in P3. So career best result on the track for that little kid. Young and spry, as they say. Into the tight left-hander once again. But I feel like Evan has picked up a bit of pace here towards the final stages. We just gravel kicking up from Albin Gustafsson's rear, or was it Evan? Whoever it was, they were kicking up, and definitely not within track limits. I don't know how harsh they are on that this weekend, but white line is definitely a bit way out from the grass, so be careful there, guys, because you're gonna get a warning and that is gonna be a penalty. So we'll see how that unfolds. As we look further back, it's still Kevin Strandberg holding off Pete Norbeck further down. Pace is sort of leveled off here into the low 9s for the leading guys and sort of high 9s for the guys and girls a little bit further behind. Into turns 4 and 5. It's still Evan Hofknaj from Albin Gustafsson, and then Mason Bjerring now being hunted down by Enzo Collin. It seems like when they switched, Enzo got back in the game again, pace-wise. Into the slow turn 7 again. We see side-by-side action between Enzo Collin and Mason Bjerring into the turn 6 corner. Enzo Collin is passed. Then we go into turn 7, the slow corner. Yeah, Enzo's clean pass, so good move from him. It's turn 6, 7 and 3 that are the best overtaking spots on this track. I would say especially turn 6 and 7, those slow hairpins warping into each other. So now go into turn 1. Albin Gustafsson right behind Evan Hofknaj. Evan Hofknaj goes a bit defensive into the corner. Will now Albin have a run on the back straight now? We'll wait and see. As Enzo Collin goes a bit wide in turn 1 as well. Can Mason Bjerring have a little look? No, it's dropped back a bit. Has to drop back when the field goes a bit wild in front. As we just peer them out of view, here they are again. Enzo has Enven has fended off Albin into turn 3 this time around, but now Albin has looked down into turn 4. That is very unorthodox, not something we would usually call an overtaking opportunity, but he was unorthodox back in Midsveibon as well. Not quite enough to get past this time around, but great try by him. As we now see Kevin Strandberg dropping back. Does he have an issue? I think that might be the case, unfortunately. As we now have... Oh, yellow flag here. Calm down, guys. I think that will be Kevin Strandberg. Yeah, he's parked up there in turn 6. So is the safety car out on track. We're going to neutralize this race, reset. It's a great opportunity if you have a hot engine or hot tires to cool down and reset. And that looks like a mechanical issue of some sort. I would not expect someone to go that far off in the gravel in that kind of speeds. If you... yeah, he's stuck. He's stuck in the gravel. Yeah, so he tries to dig himself up, but only dug himself further into the gravel. So he's gonna be stuck there. So they're gonna have to tow him out of there, either with the big wheelbarrow. I think that might be the case. I see big yellow machine getting ready on circuit. Another shot as the cars have now bunched up behind the safety car with Evan Hofknaj, the Norwegian, leading the way so far. Albin Gustafsson behind him, and then Enzo Collin. Then we have Mason Bjerring, Pete Norbeck, Carl-Wilhelm Björneman, Max Stjernlund, Agnes Wåland, Julius Elin, who's made a few positions up actually during this race. Very good from him. Then Johan Wåland, Lina Hessman, Embla Larsson, and then Kevin Strandberg now retiring. So we had 14 cars in qualifying, 12 remain as we get ready for and I'm actually starting to question myself when I said it was a technical issue, because he still managed to spin up the tires in that gravel, so might be the case that it was actually a driver error, or maybe some over some battling, but he had a second behind to Pete and a few seconds up ahead, so all evidence points to either driver mistake or technical fault, but as I said, find it hard to believe that technical fault would be possible since he spun up the rears earlier, unless he decided, I don't know. I can only speculate now. We'll know later tomorrow when we get back to you on that broadcast. But for now, all we can assume and all that we know is that Kevin Strandberg won't be taking the checkered flag this race. And it's going to end this race on a yellow machine with big tires. And being towed back to pit lane. It looks quite a swift and good job from the staff members of this track. As I say that, there is some gravel spewing out on circuit, but that's not where you're driving anyway, so it should be fine. But good job from them to get away quickly. We are gonna get some final laps here towards the end to race. They're just gonna have to brush off that little gravel, so then we're probably gonna be able to good to go again for a few laps, a little sprint in the sprint race. As the Ford Mondeo, I think that is, safety car leads the pack. Even Hofknai warming his tires to be prepared for the restart. As we go through the safety car, I can acknowledge the new and improved graphics on our screen. Nice touch with a bit more rounded, simplistic corners. I think it's looking good. It's been a nostalgic few years with the last graphic we had, more transparent red and black sort of color scheme, but definitely an improvement. But here we go racing again. I completely missed the safety car turning off the lights. We're back to green flag racing, and it's Evan Hofknai leading away from Albin Gustafsson. Then we have Enzo Collin, Mason Bjerring, Pete Norbeck, Carl-William Björneman, Max Stjärnlund, Agnes Valand, Julius Julin, Johan Valand, Selina Hessman, Emla Larsson, rounding out their car still running, but we see Enzo Collin having to look in his mirrors now because Mason Bjerring is right up behind looking for it. Outside look from Albin Gustafsson into turn 3 on Evan Hofknai. Can he get a run into turn 4? He gets a good run here. They're going to be side by side probably. No, Albin opts to stay behind, but he has a little look into turn 4. Evan has to go wide, give him space into turn 5 now. Could this be the run for Albin Gustafsson up into T6? Evan defends into turn 6. Keeps to the inside, wants to protect his lead as we go into the hairpin. Still in the lead, he goes wide here into turn 7. Albin Gustafsson finds the gap on the inside. Oh, it's a very late move, but he gets cleanly past as Albin Gustafsson goes up into the lead from P5 on this grid. Evan Hofknai now looking at the black car. Reconsidering what can he do to get back past again in this race. Albin Gustafsson with a very opportunistic move, very good job from him. As the Norwegian now has to look for other ways to regain his lead. He goes on the outside into turn 1. Will that make it stick? He's probably going to have a good run here out on the back straight. Yes. Will he find the inside into turn 2? No, he's only looking. It's not really possible to dive into a flat out corner. Mason Bjerring has gotten past and pulled away a bit from Enzo Collin in behind. As now Evan Hofknai goes for the move into turn 3. It's a late and great move from the Norwegian into turn 3. Catches Albin Gustafsson completely off guard. And now Albin Gustafsson has to look behind for Mason Bjerring, the Danish guy, into turn 5. And so Collin has caught back up. And also I see Carl-William Björneman has gotten past Pete Norbeck up into P5. Into turn 6 again. Same story as last lap, but so much has happened in between. Now Albin has the outside into turn 7. But not much he can do from that side of the track. So it's Evan Knaj from Albin Gustafsson, then Mason Bjerring, Enzo Collin, Carl-William Björnemalm, and then Pete Norbeck. As we enter what is the penultimate lap of this race. Mason Bjerring defending from Enzo Collin, who tries the outside looks, trying to get a run onto the back straight. Albin Gustafsson also behind Evan Hofknai. Into turn 3, will he try the same maneuver that Evan did to him last lap? He has certainly had a look, but Evan was sort of ready, I think, and not able to find that move past at this stage. He's going to have a few more attempts, notably into turn 6 and 7 this lap, and then we have another lap to see if he can do something about Evan in the lead. On to the back, middle straight. Evan sort of half defending. Albin Gustafsson looking, can he find the inside? And so Collin has gotten past Mason Bjerring in the meanwhile. Into turn 7 now. It's Evan Hofknai is defending now into turn 7. He learned from the last time when he got overtaken by Albin Gustafsson. We're now going to enter the final corner of what is the penultimate lap. We're getting ready to decide this race. We're going to have one final lap as they cross the line. And so Collin has gotten a bit of a gap to Mason Bjerring, as Carl-William Björneman actually catching up to Mason Bjerring now. So good pace from him. As now Evan Hofknai, defense into turn 1. Albin on the outside. Can he get around there? It's going to be optimistic. I don't think he can get a run at this very stage, but now he's very close to Evan. He's on the outside into turn 2. He has sort of opts to slot in behind and maybe look for a move into turn 3 instead. Will he try it? Turn 3, downhill. Evan defends. Will he now get a run into turn 4 and 5 instead, Albin? The opportunities are drying out. We only have a few remaining. Albin has a look into turn 4. He goes for it. Evan gives him the room. It's clean racing between them. Evan goes a bit wide in out turn 5. Albin now has the inside going on to turn 6, but it's going to turn into the outside. He lifts off to give him the space and try another move into turn 6 here. 2 corners and a bit to go. It's Evan Hofknai is defending into turn 7. Albin tries to find an inside, but Evan is there defending, blocking him. Now Enzo Collin has having a little look on Albin Gustafsson into turn 9, the final corner of the lap. Evan Hofknai misses the corner into the final corner. Is it going to be a drag race to the line? Evan Hofknai completely misses the apex, and it gives the opportunity to Albin Gustafsson, who wins this race in front of Evan Hofknai in the final corner. Wow. Oh, he's going to be so gutted from that. Enzo Collin takes the final podium position in both overall and junior. Mason Bering in P4 and Carl William Björneman P5, Pete Norbeck P6, Max Stjernlund P7, Juri Selin P8 and then Selina Hessman P9, Johan Wahlan P10 and Agnes Wahlan P11. Embla Larsson rounding out the grid as we wait for her. Wow. Yeah, anything can happen in racing, and I think Evan learned the hard way. Had it under control. There were no overtaking opportunities left, but just a lapse of focus in the heat maybe. And there went the win. And with that, I think Albin Gustafsson reclaims the championship lead with a few points. It's nothing in between, and they've been trading positions now ever since Mitt-Sverigebanan. If I have to guess, it's somewhere within 5 and 0 points difference between them. Impressive from Albin to keep his cool and be ready when it mattered. Great job from Enzo to be in P3 after a great drive. Was close to the 2 cars at the end, and I would say his pace is really good nowadays. He did his rookie year last year, was sort of there or thereabouts, and then improved rapidly this season over the winter, and now he's definitely a consistent top contender. I would say Mason Bering very impressive early on, but maybe just overheating the tires a bit, getting a bit too eager, and as a result has to slot in and be happy with P4 instead. I would say very good job from Carl William Björnemalm, who went from P10 on the grid, or P9. I can't remember exactly, but many positions came from him, and I would say his pace was looking pretty good at the end as well. So must say very good job. He was actually fastest of anyone on the last lap, not overall, not the race, but the last lap in particular. He was the only person below 110. So great job from him. And with that, I will thank you who've been watching Aquila Formula 1000 broadcast. We are now getting ready to the Nordic 4 with the Aquila Formula Nova. So if you're keen to watch that, you have to go to the main broadcast and watch that race, because Aquila Formula 1000 is going to be rounded out for the day. We have 2 more races tomorrow in that series, but we're now going to move on to Nordic 4, what I drive usually, but not this weekend unfortunately. And we're getting ready to start that race. So getting ready for Nordic 4 now. Their 4th round of the championship in the Nordic 4 championship here at Sturup Raceway. It's going to be the tiniest track on the calendar by far in terms of width and overall twistiness. It was not a very close qualifying for pole position this time around. It's the Formula Novas here with their lower weight and more downforce has been untouchable for the older Formula 5s and Formula 4s. So it was Richard Olson, the winner of many races this year, taking pole position with a 58.889, which I believe is also only a few tenths away from the track record, any class, any category overall. So very close to all-time track record, but not quite enough. Then Jonathan Nylander in P2, getting a career best P2 qualifying with Joel Granfors, his coach, standing there talking to his father Joachim about upcoming race in the orange number 81 car. Then we have championship leader, I believe it is, Mattias Stigsen in P3, and then Mille Hohe back from her hiatus back in Gelleråsen. Then we have Rosanne Den Driver, who impressed very much at Gelleråsen a few weeks ago, and then Milla Sjöstrand, who took some podiums back in Gelleråsen as well. Then we have Janine Vermouth in P7, and then P8. There is a box reserved for Joel Granfors, who was driving the Nova, but is not going to take part in this race as he was only testing out the car. So he's not going to be partaking in this race, but maybe tomorrow, I've heard a bird whistle to me. And then rounding out the grid in the final two spots is Michelle Emily Liv Rasmussen and Sigurd Sturup Fredriksen, who also did a race in Aquila Formula 1000 last year and has done one weekend, I believe, or maybe two this year in the Formula 5 in the Nordic 4 Championship. A bit of an older variant as well, as you can see. So we have 50 minutes plus lap here to decide this Nordic Championship race 1 here at Sturup. I think if Richard, who has been struggling a bit with his starts this year, if he gets a good launch and leads out of turn 1, I don't think it's anything really anyone can do about his prospects of winning this race. Jonathan Lander likely going to hang with him for a few laps and then probably drop back after a while. Then it's Mattias Stigsen is probably going to be hungry to overtake Jonathan for P2. Remember, both the Formula 4s and the Novas are competing in the same championship, so there's no separate Formula Nova or Nordic Formula 4 Tatus Megale, championship. It's the same championship, so they're competing against each other, and I think it will show on the first couple of laps. It's not I wouldn't even call it a medium hardness to overtake on this track. I would say it's extremely difficult to overtake with these cars on this circuit. I would say if unless you make a mistake, you're probably going to keep your position. The only thing speaking against that, I think, is Jonathan Lander might have to be very careful in the beginning here, especially if he's not quick up to temperature and pace. You're going to have to watch out for Mattias Stigsen behind, who has a bit more top speed in that older Formula 4, a bit more horsepower in those cars. They are heavier and have less downforce. But they have 30, 40, I think it's more close to 30 horsepower more, which is helpful at the end of the straights. So it's been a struggle for the Novas this year. They are usually a bit quicker, and on this track they're a lot quicker than the former F4s, but they are it's anyone who's been on the track, they will know the feeling when you're faster in the corners but sort of not fast enough on the straights, so you catch up to someone and it's hard to overtake and hard to defend if they decide to go strike back at you. So it's a very annoying feeling to have, but as I said, as long as Richard Olson and Jonathan Lander gets a good start and launch off the grid, I think they are not going to be threatened a lot by the Formula 4 this weekend, because they are not quick enough on this particular track and combination. We now see the cars lining up to the grid spot. Let's see, Richard Olson, he is 0-for-9 this year in starts. That has even been okay. He has really been struggling with the starts. I did in my first race in Gelleråsen, he started pole and I was P6, and by turn 1 I was ahead of him. So that should tell you all you need to know really about how his starts been going this year. As we hear the cars revving up, getting ready for the race. Once again, I can't see the red lights, but we will hear when the cars are revving up and getting ready to launch for this race number 1 here at Sturup. the safety cars just making their rounds away around to get into rescue car position. Then we're ready. 5 second board is out. Cars are revving up. It's time to go racing once again in Nordic Ford Championship 2026. Lights out and away we go. It's a great lot from Richard Olsen, who gets away well from the line. Mattias Stigsen challenges Jonathan Olander into turn 1. It's on the outside of Jonathan Olander on the straight. Now there's a drag race between them. I think Mattias Stigsen is going to have the advantage in this particular case. Rosander driving behind that, trying to overtake and have an opportunity behind them. They're side by side into turn 2, going into turn 3, over the crest now. It's a tight corner, but yes, Mattias Stigsen has pulled away and gotten ahead of Jonathan Olander into turn 3. So Jonathan Olander dropping back behind Mattias Stigsen. And then it's Rosander driver looking behind Jonathan Olander, looking for the move. It was a great launch from Richard Olsen this race. I was almost worrying about false start or jump start, because it looked like he was way quicker on the reaction than anyone else. But also the car is very light, so if you react good, it's going to be quick off the line. So now getting to turn 7, tight corner for these cars. Richard has already opened up what is probably at least 1 second gap on this first lap. We see when they cross the line. Richard Olsen 1:03.050 on the first lap, and he's leading with 3.4 seconds after 1 lap completed. Jonathan Olander is not getting shaken off by Mattias Stigsen, but as I said, it's going to be difficult for him to overtake. He gets a good run of the corner, but at the end of the straight it's harder to do anything about him. Into turn 3 now, once again, Mattias Stigsen from Jonathan Olander, then Rosander den driver. And then Mila Sjöstrand, Janine Värmuth, and then Mikaela Emily Livma Rasmussen, and then Stig Sturup Fredriksson. As Richard disappears from view. Into turn 6, Mattias Stigsen, championship leader, defending from Jonathan Olander, who's had some issues this year, of course. Being a new car, he's not had the proper preparation and time to get everything in order with him in the car, but is now working a lot better, it seems, and he's putting a lot of pressure on Mattias Stigsen. Richard Olsen doing 59.026 last track. Mattias Stigsen in P2 1:00.507, so it's 1.5 seconds between them, and Jonathan Olander easily tagging along behind Mattias Stigsen. And I don't believe that little clock beside Mattias Stigsen is correct, because if I look at my timing here, Richard was faster last lap. As we hear the sound of the MT-09 Yamaha engine roaring past 12,000 RPM, past the camera. Really nice sound that. From inside the car as well, as we see Jonathan Olander looking a bit to Mattias Stigsen. Where can he find the move? Inside, outside, it's difficult. It's a wide car as well, wider than an F1 car, even a few centimeters. So it's not the easiest to squeeze that into a tiny gap, especially when you have a good driver like Mattias in the front of you. And then we have the third lap started. Richard Olsen pulling away last lap as well with 1.5 seconds once again. It looks like Jonathan Olander is a bit quicker now than Mattias Stigsen. It's just a question of where he can find his way past on what is 11.5 minutes left to go on the clock. Must be quite comfortable for Richard up in front, just not having to push, just effortlessly sort of pulling away lap after lap. Listening, of course, of every little racket, every little sound. Is there something wrong with the car or anything? You get very nervous when you're leading, especially with that type of margin. So we'll see now as we enter lap number 5. It's Richard Olsen, lap number 4, sorry, Richard Olsen ahead of Mattias Stigsen, who has picked up the pace a bit here towards the 4th lap of this race. And Richard has got back by a bit in pace. Stigsen actually pulled away from Jonathan Olander last lap. Rosander den driver not really able to keep up with Stigsen and Olander at this stage, as he dropped back a bit from them. Then it's Mille Hoen and Mila Sjöstrand, Janine Värmuth, and then Mikaela Emily Rasmussen, Sturup Fredriksson. We're gonna have, I believe, a bit more calm few laps now. So we can talk a bit about Joel Granforce, who did not start this race but might be doing tomorrow. Veteran of the Formula car racing. I raced against him myself. Richard has too. Vice GB3 champion back in 2022. Only lost out to Luke Browning, who went on to become a Formula 2 driver. And is now doing Super Formula, I believe, over in Japan. I was myself driving in the same team but in another series that year, so nice to see him trying out the machinery, and he said it was very nice to drive. Really enjoyed the grip, especially in the high speed. That floor on the Nova is really like sucking the car down to the ground. I know when we were back in the Yellow Rosa last time out, the final sector was nuts. To find another board is difficult because the speed is uncomparable to anything I've driven or most people have driven, I believe, in the corners. In turn 2 at Yellow Rosa we pulled 3 Gs at one stage, so enough to make your neck hurt a little bit, so we have to be well trained and maintained ahead of every race. So I see this race now sort of settling into rhythm. Mattias Stigson now picking up the pace a little bit, but not enough to rival Richard, but definitely enough to leave Jonathan Elander a few ways behind him. Jonathan Elander now on course for his first career podium, any series, I think, car related at least. I don't think he had any podiums in his stint in Aquila Formula 1000. If I remember correctly, maybe a junior podium at some stage, but not something I can recollect on the top of my head. But definitely coming into his own here in the more grip, more pace Formula Nova. The orange car, which I think is going to have even more orange on it eventually, but at this stage not really finished wrapping the car to its entirety. As we now see the race director, as I see the race director telling car number 3, Rosanna Den Driver, to move their transponder for the next race. So there's that. I don't think there's going to be any repercussions for that, just a friendly reminder to reposition it ahead of the races tomorrow. As we have 7 minutes left to go here at Sturup Raceway, with the drivers passing the Frog Lake inside of turn 6 into turn 7 now. And then into turn 8. Rounding out a lap. I haven't seen Richard in a while, but I know he's still out there because I can see him on his live timing. 59.9 last time. He's really dropping back the pace now. I don't know if he's cooling down, relaxing in his lead, just not taking any risks, or if he's just genuinely dropped back in pace on pure merit. I will guess on the former, but either way, dropping the back a bit. Still fastest on track, but not with such a margin anymore. Stigson now has a comfortable gap down to Jonathan Lander in P3. I think Jonathan might be just trying to take this one home into the checkered flag. A lot of Danish drivers in this series, since it's originally from Denmark, still operated by Danish people and mostly Danish teams. Notable exceptions being Richard Olsen, Jonathan Lander, myself, Les Olstam, and then Joel Granfors, also Mila Sjöstrand in P6, sorry, is from Sweden. Then we have Rosanna Den Driver from Netherlands. I think the goal of this series is to branch out into more countries, especially nationalities from the drivers in the coming years with this new Formula Nova car, which is going to become the series standard moving forward. So the older cars, Formula 4s and Formula 5s, are going to be retired at the end of this year, and move on to the Nova, which Richard Olsson and Jonathan Lander is piloting at this stage. As we see Milla Sjöstrand here, I believe it is, on screen. Yes, it is. Doing rounds in the racecraft gray and white car ahead of Janine Vermuth in P7. Was featured in an article in Dagens Industri just a couple of weeks ago. There's a lot of attention on that young girl, Milla Sjöstrand. I know where I live, Stockholm. It's she's very well known. I hear about her all the time when I'm out at events myself. And it's nice to see her getting a very good string of races together. I know throughout her career they've been struggling with finances, as most people have at some point, and been doing sort of on and off races here and there in different series. Did a Formula 1000 a couple of years ago. I think it was 22 and 23, yeah, something like that. And then had a bit of a hiatus, did some karting and other things. Now looking like a full-time seat at Info Nordic 4 here. Done every race so far this year. And is not that far away from the lead, I think, in the championship as well. So was impressive back in Gelleråsen. Last time out, had a great pace, and was moving through the categories, and great pace from her. Mille Hoe, I think she wasn't participating back in Gelleråsen. I don't think we had any Formula 5s. There was only the Formula 4s and Novas there. Mattias Stigsen now has pulled out almost 4 seconds to Jonathan Lander in P3. Jonathan Lander now dropping back to Rosanna Den Driver. I think maybe neck and other muscles on the body is starting to suffer from the G-forces, and especially the heat this weekend, as we spoke about earlier. It's been immense. 35 degrees at its peak today, earlier in qualifying, and I think it's still about 30 degrees outside. I'm sitting in an air-conditioned caravan, so I'm not bothered by it at this moment. But as you can see, 31 degrees at this very stage on the weather, even with the cloud base. So definitely unbearable for most to drive, but you have to bite down and do it anyway. It's the case with racing. If you're put down a lot of money doing this sport, then you have to see the race out, even if it can be hurting and unbearable at stages. As we see that Stiggs has dropped down in the leaderboard there, but I don't think that's correct. I'm still seeing him circling around. I think that's a timing issue. Let's see. Don't know. Maybe actually I will have to become detectives, because I didn't see anything unordinary in regards to him. As we see that yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that one. I'm still searching. No, I saw him. He's still on track. So no worries. Dixon is still on track driving in P2. Just the timing pulling our leg. Richard Olsen now hearing out of US. Mattias Stigsen is there going into turn 1. So late apex from him, giving a bit of room to the inside of turn 1. Then taking a late apex, get a good run out of turn 1 into the back straight. Then Jonathan Lander, Rosanna Den Driver, and then Milla Sjöstrand in P5. No, not P5, Milla Sjöstrand is P6. I am extremely confused by this timing right now. I think we can disregard it at this stage. Yeah, there's because it's definitely still Richard Olsson leading ahead of Mattias Stigsen and then Jonathan Lander and then Rosanna den Driver and then Milla Sjöstrand, Mille Hoe and then Milla Sjöstrand and then Janine Vermuth. Yeah. I think we're getting towards the end of this race. I've been talking so much I've barely kept up with it myself. As we definitely enter the final lap now for Richard Olsson with a lead so commanding. One might say it's slightly unentertaining even. 16.5 seconds ahead of Jonathan Lander, but remember Mattias Stigsen is in between there somewhere. Probably so. But still a massive gap in only a 15 minutes plus lap race. So we see him here going into turn 6, lapping some cars even maybe here towards the tail end of this race. So we see a yellow flag here. Why is that? I don't know. What I do know is that Richard Olsson has just exited the final corner of this race. He's gonna win this race. Race number 1 here at Sturup Raceway in Nordic 4 Championship with the Formula Nova. It's a very commanding lead from Richard Olsson. Behind him is going to be... we have to wait. There we have him. Mattias Stigsen in P2 for the Formula 4. And then we have Jonathan Lander for his first career podium in P3. And then Mille Hoe. Rosanna den Driver and then Mille Hoe. Then we wait for Milla Sjöstrand. There we have them, Milla Sjöstrand and Janine Vermuth. To wait for Michelle Rasmussen to come across the line. It was a very spread out affair, this race. There we have her. And then yeah, now the timing is looking a bit better, but still Rosanna den Driver I think crossed the line earlier, so yeah, still not completely sure about that light timing. But here we have Richard Olsson winning for the GT Marbella car, the black and gold liveried car number 72, who's been so fast this year, but starts and other mishaps have prevented what is probably the championship lead otherwise. I don't have the championship in my head or in front of me, so I can't tell you exactly what is where after this, but I know that with this Richard is gonna take a few points away from Mattias Stigsen in the lead. We see Don Suensson and Håkan talking about the race, their feelings, and what's going to be next. Dan, who builds the car in the blue shirt to the right, and Håkan, who is Richard's dad and mechanic for the number 72 car. So yeah, thank you for that race. We are looking forward to tomorrow's continuation of what we saw today. Maybe the other competitors can find something to challenge Richard tomorrow. And with that, I'm gonna have to leave you for the day and get back to you tomorrow for more racing in other series. I have to go coach some drivers and do my other jobs here at this weekend. So I will thank you very much for tuning in. There will be more races on screen, but I won't be the one talking, at least. That's all I know. But thank you very much for joining me for these 2 races, Wacolia World Formula 1000 and Nordic 4. I'll get back to you tomorrow. Thank you and bye-bye.